then when you're all finished with your crocodile breath, just roll over onto your back and get yourself ready for your Shavasana. For our Shavasana, we're going to do Winter's Breath, which is a short little meditation that's from the Spotify playlist. And then we'll play the Namaste song, and then after the Namaste song, we'll come up and do our Satanama.
Into one of my favorites. It's called Winter's Breath. Have you ever stood outside on a cold day and opened your mouth and breathed out and seen smoky fog appear in front of your mouth? Well, if you haven't, try it this winter, but we're going to try it right now. Take a breath in through your nose, and then open your mouth real wide, and gently push the breath out, making a sound like this. If you put your hand in front of your mouth while you're breathing out, you'll feel warm air coming against your hand. That warm air can feel real good in winter, and it's also what makes that smoky fog appear when it mixes with the cold air. Let's try it again. And one more time. A breath in through your nose, and breathe out, making that smoky air.
Light in me sees the light in you. The light in me sees the light in you. I honor you as you honor me. Namaste, namaste, namaste. The light in me sees the light in you. The light in me sees the light in you. I honor you as you honor me. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Start to gently wiggle your fingers and toes, awakening yourself to your surroundings. And then reach your hands up high above your head, as far away from your toes as you can. And then draw your knees into your chest and wrap your arms around your knees and just gently rock side to side. And then come to rest on the right side of your body, tucked in a little cocoon. And slowly make your way up to your seated pose. Getting your hands ready for your Satanama, knowing that your pointer finger comes to your thumb for Sa. For Ta, it's your middle finger. Na is your ring finger, and Ma is your pinky. We'll sing it 3 times, whisper it 3 times, quiet 3 times, whisper 3 times, and sing 3 times. Satanama, 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 How did you feel about the crocodile breath? It's really relaxing, wasn't it? It's amazing, like how just simply laying on your belly and breathing can completely change and feel amazing. Did you have something to say, Kim?
I just feel like I have too much junk from here to for some of this stuff. I mean, like, I feel like I have boobs and belly in a way that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is good.
So you didn't enjoy the crocodile?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, I liked the feeling of the breathing in and out, but I was thinking
I
too
felt
much
like
about it.
the way my neck was held was because I have a, kind of, that's where I have problems in my
Do you?
So.
And we have to remember that kids are a little bit more flexible, and their bodies haven't been through what our bodies have been through, so they're able to utilize that feeling of relaxation a little bit quicker, and not think about those little aches and pains that we get over time, right? So, any questions about the lesson, about the mudras we use, the lesson, about creating it, or anything to share about what you've heard about somebody in your school utilizing this already?
I know another teacher that took this class for me this summer who loves the Moody jar, the Moody cow jars, and she is a little student who was kind of like a, I don't know, he gets mad really easily, and that's what she'll do. That's one of the things she'll do. She'll have a little basket of things for that person to do, and she'll send him off to a table or to an area of the room and say, get a Moody car jar, and that's what that little person will do is move the jar and just do the. I don't know if they do the crocodile breaths or whatever, but she had it down right away. So I just gonna try that.
Yeah. And there's such good strategies to use for kiddos, like that, have anger issues or tend to be a little more unfocused. But the thing that I always like to get across too is, if they say, well, I go to a particular particular school with a particular type of population, and they'll say, well, it's good for those type of kids. And it's like, yes, it is, but yoga and these meditation tools are good for all type of kids too, to utilize. Yes?
Do you, with the kiddos, use packing tape to seal the lid or the lid on?
That's a good question. In the past, I've used like a glue gun just in the top part and then, closed it. But I found with these Vosses, I don't have to. But that's a really good question. When I did the mason jars, I'd use just a little bit, like a hot glue gun. But using these has let me take that out of the mix too. Yeah.
I have we teach preschool, and I use just Gorilla Glue. I just put it on there, and then I just shut it.
Oh, so you're thinking more not just if it happens to open, like
No,
kids that will
yeah,
open
kids
them.
that open it,
Yes. So Gorilla Glue, she said. Did you hear that, Lori?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. That's it. Because when I went into a therapeutic classroom and took the glue gun in one time, I was like to the teacher, "Can you watch please?" Like not thinking the tape all the way through. So Gorilla Glue is a good way to eliminate that heat source. So. Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions about the lesson or a mudra that we use? All right. Well, let's move on to talking about the 8 limbs. I want to talk about for sure the 8 limbs tonight. And I also want to talk about the change in the assignment. So I want to get those 2 things covered for sure tonight. If we don't get to the types of pranayama, we're not going to get to the rest of the asanas. If we don't get to the rest of the pranayama, or the part about the pranayama, we'll get to that next week, okay? So if you could turn to page 10, 11, and 12, we're going to talk about the 8 limbs of yoga. So I'm just going to read the top paragraph at the top if you want to follow along. It's right on page 10 at the top underneath 8 limbs of yoga. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, the Eightfold Path is called the Ashtanga, which literally means 8 limbs. Ash means 8, and Anga means limbs. These 8 steps basically act as guidelines on how to live a meaningful and purposeful life. They serve as a prescription or moral or ethical conduct and self-discipline. They direct attention towards one's health, and they help us to acknowledge the spiritual aspects of our nature. So the first one is the yamas. So you have yamas and niyamas, which is mostly of your character. So I just want you to read through number 1 and 2, the yama and the niyama, which if you use character education in your classroom, these have a lot to do with character education, the yama and the niyama. So basically, number 1, the yama is nonviolence, practicing nonviolence. And number 2, the niyama is having a spiritual observance. So anywhere in there, it doesn't say that you have to be a Hindu or you have to be a Buddhist or you have to be a Catholic to practice yoga. It just means that you're a spiritual being. So, and whatever that might be for your regularly attending any sort of religious practice that you have. So whether that's attending a Presbyterian church, a Catholic church, a Buddhist, whatever it is for you. And then also cleanliness. So this is where I get in for my little yogis. I'll always say, the yogis make the world around them look better. So if they come into the room and it looks kind of clean and the papers are sort of cleaned up, they leave it looking better with the papers completely straightened and the markers all put away neatly. And so it's amazing that all I have to say is time to clean up in a yoga class, and you'll have the little yogis like picking up and they'll arrange, and I'll finally have to say, okay, just sit down, it's fine. Because they want to prove to you that they are, and prove to themselves too, which is most important, that they are, little spiritual beings. So those are the yamas and the niyamas, the first 2 limbs of yoga. The next 2 parts are the 2 parts that we're talking about tonight, the asanas, which are the poses, and the pranayama, which is the breath. So just take a moment to read the asana and the pranayama. So number 3, the asana, basically are the poses. We did some of those in the beginning tonight. We talked about some that are more cooling poses, some that are more for concentration, and some that are for energizing. So the different asanas or asanas, you hear them said both ways, are the poses, the body work. So if we talked about, if you really want to think about like the whole practice of yoga, that the asanas are an 1/8 of it. So it's one part of an 8-fold practice developed through Patanjali. And he is, the Yoga Sutras, if you read through them, there are several sutras that talk about the way you should be and the way you should act and the way you should present yourself and the way you should practice your yoga practice. But the 8-fold practice just really develops just the basic way that you should be to practice your daily yoga, which is beyond the mat, which you'll hear them say a lot, which is off the mat, practicing your yoga off the mat. Number 5 and 6 are basically types of meditation, pratyahara and dharana. So go ahead and just read those. number 5, Pratyahara. So that is, really bringing your impulses under control. So if you have an alcohol addiction, not many children do, but if you do, or if you have a smoking addiction, or if you have a sex addiction, or any sorts of addictions, like getting that under control. So that's what practicing your Pratyahara is. So whatever that might be for you, for children, sometimes that can be an eating addiction. Just thinking about what impulse control. When I teach this to kids, a lot of times I talk to them about it being bullying back your thoughts. So sometimes when you have a thought that comes forward and you keep thinking a thought like, so-and-so did this to me and it's their fault, kind of much like Peter was thinking about his sister Daisy, bullying back that thought because that's not a real thought, and then looking at what actually happened. So that's the language I often use with kids when I do that. And again, you're never going to have to explain this to kids, but just so you know the basics of this, because you might have some parent come in who knows a lot about yoga, just so you have the background on what is out there. And then let's move forward. Oh, and then the next one is practicing your meditation, concentration, letting go of all outside stimuli. So this is where some yogis can really take their meditation to the extent of sitting for hours and hours and letting go of all outside stimuli. So the next one, dhyana, is meditation or contemplation. So go ahead and read that one, and we're going to save number 8 for just a minute, so just read number 7. So again, hitting on the 2 different types of meditation that we've talked about, where you have the one-point focus meditation, which is your concentration meditation, and then the mindfulness meditation, which we're talking about as well, which is being mindful or present in your thoughts, not having too many thoughts going on, but having fewer thoughts go on so we can be more present in the place that we are. We're going to talk about that a lot next week, too. And number 8, samadhi. And that is self-awareness, like ecstasy, being totally in line with who you are. And very, very few yogis reach this. So please go ahead and reach this, but do not be intimidated as you read this that you need to be there. So when someone is said to have reached samadhi, they are said to have no fear of dying. So they are completely in line with who they are and with their creator, and they have no fear at all of dying. So for me, I can't say that I'm there because I would fear for my children, and so it's something that very few people reach. So I always try to preload that with saying, don't be intimidated if you read this and go, I'm never going to be there. But very few people reach that. But that's the 8-fold practice of yoga. But again, focusing in on the 2 that you will be focusing on are the asanas and the pranayama. So the pose work, the body work, and the breath work. Okay? In the classroom. Outside of the classroom, you'll get your meditation piece, right? So any questions on those 8 folds? Right. So I want to, I am going to close with talking about the assignment a little bit. Okay. I'm not going to go into the pranayama. There's just too many types, and we're going to end up running out of time. So I'm going to save it for next time. So we're going to talk about the rest of the asanas and the pranayama next time. and then we'll also do a fourth lesson. But I want to talk to you about a little bit about the assignment. So in the syllabus, it talks about creating a lesson plan, okay, of how you would use this in the classroom. So part of your assignment was the reading of the book, A Child's Mind, and then also sending me your journal entries or doing the Instagram. And the other part of it, which was in the fine print, right, was creation of a lesson plan. But what we have been doing the last 2 times, because of our limited time the last 2 times, because it's just a 2-day cycle, but this is over 5 weeks, we have been sharing the last time something that you can take and use in the classroom, and bringing something to the sharing circle of something that someone else can take away and use. So the last class, the last hour of the last class, what we're going to do is we're going to share ideas of how you've been using yoga and meditation in your classroom, or how you will use it, so what's your takeaway from this class, or what's your new find. So one of the greatest ones that I got was in June from someone who talked about Headspace. And I've shared that app with you. And that has completely, I can't say completely changed, but completely enhanced my meditation practice. Because when I would sit and meditate before that, it would be me by myself with my mind doing what I thought was right. And, Ombana sometimes I would listen to, but that was not as powerful, I found, as Headspace. So listening to somebody else completely guide me, and then also letting it go into different sorts of pointed meditations. So that was a great takeaway that I got from someone. So coming to the circle, to the sharing circle, with how you would use something in your classroom, or what is something you would do to enhance your practice, whether it be your meditation practice, your yoga practice, or the practice that you'll take into the classroom. So there's not going to be anything written that you need to share or give to me, turn in for this part. It's just going to be what we share on the last day. So I want you to start thinking about it, because we have 2.5 weeks before our last class. So what will that be, and how can you share it? Okay, and it doesn't need to be anything magical. It can be a 1-minute conversation of, this is what I discovered, whether you've implemented it or not, and then what you found, or how you would implement it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on that? So that would be the last hour of our November 9th meeting. Okay? So we are meeting again on November 2nd, and we are meeting from 5:15 to 8. And then again on November 9th will be our very last time. Those are our last 2 times. You are over halfway today on your meditations. How do you feel about them? Good? I'm loving the power that are coming through in the responses. So in the summertime, we only get 15 responses, and they have to do it twice a day because of the timeline of when I had to turn in grades. So it's so awesome to see. This is where they came to this summer. And then to see you guys take it that 1 day further, it's really cool to see. I can't wait to see what the next 14 days. So you guys are like my little guinea pigs in that area. So, yeah.
I've been just kind of focusing on my own meditation. Do you want something more than that?
No, it's whatever needs to develop for you. I mean, my gosh, for how many, I probably have been consistently doing a meditation practice for 3.5 years, maybe. I don't want to say 4 years yet, but that's all I did until June, when I got, the Headspace app suggested to me. So don't feel that it's wrong that you need to. Yeah. Anyone else?
Just something kind of fun. I told one of the parents and my paraprofessionals that I was in my classroom, and somebody knows one of the ladies I work with, and they said, I'm going to yoga class tonight. She said, oh, so-and-so had their meditation on Instagram. So many other people are reading.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know who it was.
We're going to end with just a sitting meditation right now tonight. So I invite you I know it gets hard to sit sometimes, but that's all part of the practice, is bullying back the thoughts, right? So just whether you're in hero pose or easy pose, or if you need to have your legs straight out, but just closing your eyes, and we're just going to sit This can count for your meditation if you forgot to do it this morning or slept in too late. And if you prefer to hold your hands in a mudra that feels right for you, go ahead and do that. If it just feels right to have your hands soft on your lap, go ahead and do that. And I invite you just to close your eyes and just take a few moments to let everything that you've taken in tonight just have a place to settle in, whether it's a place in your mind, if it's a place in your heart, but just let it settle in. And then as you inhale, feel the goodness of your practice coming in through your body, into your life force energy through your breath. And then as you exhale out, feel anything leaving you that no longer serves you. Knowing that when you exhale something out that no longer serves you, it always finds the place or the being that it's meant to be. There's no negative energy that leaves your body. It's only energy that's displaced and needs to be replaced. So taking in those deep inhales, that life force energy of all you've learned, all the goodness you've taken in, and then exhaling and releasing out anything that no longer serves you, your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, and releasing it to be in the place that it needs to be. And then once again, finding a pattern of breathing that works for you in your seated practice, whether it's a mantra, or whether it's feeling that force of life force energy coming in through the nose and then the dispersion of the energy that no longer serves you, knowing that when it leaves your body, it goes to the place that it needs to be. And then taking in 3 to 5 more deep inhales and exhales. Feeling your mind centered, your heart larger, your chest open. And then bringing your hands to your heart center to close out your practice for this evening. Once again, taking your thumbs up to your mind, knowing we practice yoga and meditation to be stronger and wiser in our mind. Bringing your thumbs to your lips, knowing to be stronger and wiser in our words. And then bringing your hands to your heart center and practice to be stronger and wiser in our heart. Bow forth to each other and say, Namaste. Thank you, ladies. Have an amazing evening. And if you have any questions, I'll be here after. I just almost said after school. These days, it's harder teaching at night, too. It's really easy for me to teach those early morning hours, and then, 4 o'clock, and then you come in here at 5, it's like, whew, it's hard. So have a beautiful evening. Dishes are done, laundry's folded. Don't worry, it's taken care of, right? Positive thoughts, right?